Let's talk about the impact of social media on criminal cases. It probably comes as no surprise that law enforcement is focusing on social media. Depending on the nature of the investigation against you, you can expect the police to start looking at your social media profiles. This comes up often when officers are investigating something that is alleged to have happened sometime in the recent past. So it's not a responsive investigation where they've come out to the scene of an alleged assault or they've pulled you over for driving while intoxicated. Instead, imagine someone goes to police a day or two later and says you assaulted them or sexually assaulted them. Those are perfect instances where the police might start looking for you on social media to see what you've been doing, what you've been saying, what kind of pictures you've been posting. Or if they're involving a drug conspiracy, they might look at your connections. They might look at whether or not you've posted videos with guns and money. And there may not be anything inherently illegal about that, but those are the kinds of things that the police are going to look for to see if they need to continue that investigation into you and to see what sort of supporting materials they might have. A place where you may not expect social media to come in is on the defense side. But whenever these accusations come up, we're doing something very similar. We have investigators and we have a team here within the office that is very skilled at finding information about alleged victims. So when someone makes up an accusation and we're preparing our defense, we're pulling out all the stops to see what we can find. And it is very common for us to find individuals who post information that would contradict the allegation that they've made or is just incongruent with the position that they're taking. An example would be you've got someone who says, hey, I was sexually assaulted by someone I went out with. But you look at the evening, there were pictures taken and posted to social media, or there were things posted to even a private Instagram or an exchange on Snapchat that shows everything that happened was consensual. And of course, there might not be documentation of the sexual contact, but everything that led up, everything that happened in public that evening or leading up to that encounter. And that's circumstantial evidence from the defense side perhaps, but it's helpful evidence. So it's important for your defense attorney to be on top of the current social media applications, what's available out there, what you can get through a subpoena. Now, you don't have subpoena power until a criminal case is filed on a misdemeanor and until a criminal case is indicted on a felony. So what can you do before you have that subpoena power on the defense side? Well, you can look for things that are public. You can tell people to take screenshots. Investigators and defense attorneys are not allowed to create, for example, fake social media profiles to engage with someone, but you can certainly be an observer and document what you're able to observe. Or if your client has messages on their phone or access to something that's otherwise private, there's nothing wrong with having that played and recording it, preserving it in some manner so that you can then back it up through your subpoena power to a provider such as Snapchat or Instagram to get that information in a manner that can be used in a criminal court. So social media is really important both from an investigative side as well as a defensive side. The final layer of this that you need to think about is if you are accused of a crime, you should expect a prudent prosecutor is at some point going to start looking at who you are. Now, this typically comes up the closer a case gets to trial. But just because the prosecutor may not have a lot of time pre-trial to look into you, understand if there's an alleged victim, they are going to spend the time and make the effort to try to document as much negative information about you as possible. So our recommendation for anyone who has a social media presence is not to necessarily delete or destroy anything, but instead make sure everything is locked down with the greatest privacy protections available. You don't want to ever be accused of destroying evidence, but there's nothing that requires you to keep a public profile under most circumstances. Finally, understand that people like pretrial services, which is really an extension of the probation department, and the probation officers themselves are interested in what you're doing on social media. So not only might they look for that, it is not unheard of for a judge to require as a condition of your bond, or certainly as a condition of probation, for you to give your social media profiles and, in some cases, even your passwords to a probation officer. That comes up, for example, in sex cases where the judge wants to make sure you're not contacting anyone you should not. So if you don't have a profile, you have nothing to share. You've got to think about these things if you're being charged with an offense, particularly if you're being charged with an offense that can result in these types of bond conditions. If you're under criminal investigation or you've been arrested, social media is probably not the first thing on your mind. But it's important you think about these things because it's going to matter in how you are presented to the court, what the court and prosecutor thinks of you, and it will potentially affect the ultimate outcome of your case. If you've been charged with a criminal offense in North Texas, give us a call. We know these things because we've handled a lot of cases both as prosecutors but now as defense attorneys, and we know what to look for and the best ways to protect you. We made this video in response to questions that we received through our website and through this YouTube channel. If you found this content to be useful, be sure to like and subscribe. If you have a question about criminal law in Texas, drop a comment below or send us a message through our website at varghesestexas.com.